Evening and welcome once again to Gaming Under the Influence. I'm Mike here with Alex, coming to you from GreenDragonCVR in Woodbridge to talk about video games. How are you, pal?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, man. I finally wrapped up Death Stranding 2 and was able to jump into Expedition 33, finally.
Yeah, that's great.
How have you been?
I'm well also. I think since the last time we spoke, I've started playing Trails of Cold Steel, and I'm working through Wu Chang, Fallen Feathers.
Nice.
I'm enjoying both of those a lot, especially Wu Chang. I think it's a standout Souls-like.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things about it over the last, I guess, the couple of days since it's released.
Yeah, people are talking about Souls-like fatigue, but I definitely don't have that. You know?
Yeah.
I had some worries the genre was headed in a suboptimal direction earlier in the year, but all of the ones I've played this year I've really enjoyed, so something to talk about in another video perhaps. But there's something else on the horizon that I think warrants attention. That is Konami's upcoming remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, and I know a lot of people are excited about that, but you know, I'm not one of those people.
No, yeah, I honestly I've kind of flip-flopped back and forth over the course of the time since it's been announced, because obviously, you know, we're big Metal Gear fans, I would say.
Yeah.
But we've kind of unraveled some disappointing things with remakes in general, and it's kind of, you know, been led us to change our tune a little bit.
I think so.
With what's happening here, yeah.
It really does have to do with remakes in general. I think at least in the cases where they exclude the original creators from the remaking process.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because that's actually a crucial thing there, is that they're remaking the game without the original creator and the original artist too.
That's strange too. Like, that's kind of a double whammy. Yeah.
Jeez.
And you know, I think it's worth discussing a little bit about what's wrong with that. Yeah. What's wrong with games like Metal Gear Solid Delta and other games that we're going to touch on too, actually, that have come out in the past few years. You know, I think the first thing to discuss is the fact that, like, something like a game, as much as a novel or a painting or a movie, it's not like a ghost. It's not a soul without a body. You know, it doesn't just float around in the ether. I think the biggest thing that drove this home for me was the Demon's Souls remake, actually. My thoughts about it after returning to the original just in 2024. And I realized how much visually had been changed from the original game.
Yeah, that was really eye-opening. It was first when it came out, we didn't notice.
Yeah,
we were just hyped to play.
That's right. Yeah.
Demon's Souls on the PS5.
It had been over 10 years since I had played
exactly,
it.
Exactly, right? So going back and playing it, whether on the original console or on an emulator, you really get to see some of that old art design that, you know, the original game.
Yeah, I never really thought critically about any of this stuff around the time the PS5 came out, but it was that experience playing the original one and then thinking back on the remake that came out for PS5. I think it was in 2021.
Very eye-opening. I'll never forget, like, you had said it's like the Disney World of Demon's Souls or something, because they cleaned everything up way too much.
They changed so many things, especially the architectural style of the whole kingdom there of Boletaria, right? I think it was like Romanesque architecture, and they made it like Gothic. It's just totally different in so many significant visual respects. There was the architectural changes. There was the fact that all of the enemies who used to have, you know, different designs, they all became kind of zombified. Some of the bosses,
even some of the music they neutered. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right. They changed quite a bit, but it got me thinking about the fact that, you know, a game, like I just said, is not it's not insubstantial. It's not something without a body, and there's the idea, there's the gameplay, and there's the assets which express that, which make it tangible to you, the player, and these things all form like an organic whole, like a body, in relation to the mind that operates the body, you could say, right? Yeah. It's not like one can exist without the other and the thing will still be the same. They're all integral components.
Yeah, crucial components of the package, right? Exactly.
Of course, you know, there's some of my reliance on, you know, pre-existing philosophical postulates are obviously operative here. Maybe there are people, especially nowadays, who believe that, you know, the mind is indifferent to the body which it inhabits, and they believe that it's possible for you to physically alter physical characteristics and maintain the same person. But to my estimation, like, that's not true. You know, there's like a, what you'd call a hylomorphic organic totality to especially artworks, but also organic beings in the world, you know. And I don't think it's possible, as the Demon's Souls remake perfectly evinces, to just totally butcher the aesthetic, the art direction, even the graphics, to change all of these and to still have the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's really what's at stake here. You know, there may even be people who prefer the new art style over the old one, but I'm not even talking about whether or not it appeals to me or to anybody else. The point is ultimately that it's just not the same thing.
Yeah, it's being altered. And I mean, mainly to turn a profit, which is a whole other
that's
thing.
also true as well.
In general, but
that's also true as well.
But it's just, it kind of is untrue to the original thing itself, right? Like everyone's excited to play Metal Gear Solid 3 again, but you can already play it.
Yeah, you can already play it. I just played that last year, actually.
It was
right?
excellent. And it's quite playable and looks very good on.
It does look excellent.
And a lot of, for me, like the nostalgia is the older graphic style, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm not going to play Delta, and if I do, it'll probably be down the road.
To experiment, perhaps.
Yeah, like way later when it's out of the news cycle anyway, but I can't imagine feeling that same sense of nostalgia. Like when you get your hands on like the remaster that's just an up-resed version of the original, let's say, or whatever, it feels like you're playing the same game. It almost feels like you're playing it the way you remember it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like the same as the PS2, just without like some of the jagged edges. It's like cleaned up, right? So that hits more like of the nostalgia to me anyway, I think.
I think that gets at something important though, right? It's like we tend to, in a popular sense, look at video game graphics like they're progressive in a linear sense. Like you go from worse to better, and not that each area and the design philosophy and the visual style associated with it is its own distinct thing with its own merits, its own expressive qualities that other forms of visual representation can't capture, right? And I've been thinking about this a lot lately too, playing games like Persona 4. You know, playing Wild Arms 3 from the PS2.
Yeah.
Right? All of these games are not made with modern technology.
No.
And like I was saying before, there's something peculiar about what they were made with that makes them what they are. And the idea that you could just be like, well, we're going to model the characters in a realistic manner and translate it into contemporary technology while retaining the same thing, I don't think that's true, right? That's really, to me, the biggest and the first problem with these sorts of endeavors, right? Where they try and like take something popular from before, plaster a new coat of paint on it, and just appeal to people's like shallow sensibilities of better and worse. And the problem is that culturally, like people say about the Demon's Souls remake, like this is the definitive version, it's better than the original, right? The Silent Hill 2 remake was another game where this happened. You know, people look back on the old one as sort of like the inferior stepchild, right? When really it's the original, and this new one is you know, in my opinion, in every way, it's inferior.
Sucks.
Right? It does suck. It's a terrible game.
Yeah,
terrible game. But no, that's in far more than an aesthetic sense. Whereas here, like the fact that the old one was made using PS2 era technology, as much as the Demon's Souls remake was made using PS3 era technology, and the original Metal Gear was made using technology from its time, like those are individuating characteristics. They make the thing what it is.
Yeah.
You can't just get rid of those and slap a new coat of paint on it like somehow the identity of the thing floats up in the ether.
It's true. Like think about something like Nintendo would never remake Wind Waker.
Yeah.
They've ported it to the Wii U with upgraded graphics, just in the sense that still fits the art style. Like I said, like maybe cleaning up the edges, anti-aliasing, adding stuff like that. But you would never remake that because its charm already exists with the visuals and art style that it has, right?
Yeah.
And there's only so much you could do to upgrade it and clean it up. Like, you know,
it's
after
the same.
that, you're remaking, you're putting a whole new art style on top of it.
It becomes something else.
Becomes a new thing.
Yeah.
It's not, you know.
And maybe that thing might have some independent merit, but I think especially when it enters the collective conscious of people who play video games and it becomes like the standard of what's good and bad in respect of this game, then that's unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
History will remember that and forget the original, and I don't think that that's a realistic way of looking at things that people make any more than it is at individuals with bodies existing in the world.
And all this is like aside from the somewhat slap in the face to Kojima
that's a whole other problem that we can get
right?
to for sure.
Oh my God.
I think even like one of the more successful remakes in my opinion was the Persona 3 Reload.
Yeah.
And I played that just less than a month ago. I think I finished it, or a month and a half or so, and I enjoyed it, but I dabbled in the original, or at least FES, on an emulator at the same time. And having dumped so many hours into Reload, I was hesitant to go back and just restart the original one. But I do feel like something was truly lost in the fact that, you know, the new graphics are interesting, and at least they have the merit of being somewhat designed and supervised by the original artist.
Yeah.
Sojima there.
Yeah, and that one's, like you said, it's not even one of the worst examples.
No.
They tried to keep it faithful.
They tried to like translate the character styles to like Persona 5 character styles, because the guy's art direction, his way of designing human beings did change as he got older, you know, from Persona 3 to 4 to 5. Like, you went from these like unrealistically proportioned characters to characters in 5 with properly proportioned bodies. So a bunch of the people that he trained at the Persona studios there went and redid his characters with his approval and stuff. So I mean, at least he was still involved, and it's not like a totally different set of people transplanting something that had nothing to do with the original. But still, nonetheless, it's not the same thing anymore, right?
Yeah.
Never mind in terms of its conventions, like its physical body, if you will, is just changed. It's transmogrified.
It's so odd that like they're remaking, you know, Metal Gear Solid 3 without the original people involved, and they're trying to keep it as same as possible, whereas then you get something like Final Fantasy Remake, which was made with some of the original people involved in the original 7, but they're like, we're gonna make it a new thing anyway, because it's not just Final Fantasy 7, it's a whole new thing.
That's
anyway,
a much more respectable approach, to me, honestly. I think that's one of the strengths that we were talking about this too of the Final Fantasy series, is that its longevity is kind of attributable to the fact that it's not really the same thing in any given case, you know?
It's not like Halo where you're, you know, Master Chief saves the world 17 times in a row or whatever.
It's more like a genre unto itself.
Yeah.
People make new entries in that genre that are more or less unrelated to each other. Yeah.
You know, like
whole new worlds, whole new characters, you know? And like you just said, even the way in which, you know, the same people involved in the original 7 are back remaking it, and even they don't want to simply put a new coat of paint on it, right?
Exactly.
Much to people's irritation on the internet, but I think that whatever I feel about those remakes, some positive, some negative feelings, I do respect that immensely, right? Because of what I've just been describing to you. The original is its own thing. You can't just make it embodied in new matter and expect it to be the same thing, you know? And there's so many examples of these kinds of things that I think it would take too long to go through all of them. But like you were just saying, another problem is, you know, we just talked about the material aspects of the thing, its visual assets and its art style changing. There's also the fact that I don't think the relation between the guy who conceives the game and the game itself is some indeterminate thing that you can just disregard either, right? The original creator has a relationship to the thing that he makes. You know,
I feel like people incorrectly associate the game with whoever like the publisher is. Like in this example, Konami. Why doesn't Konami just make Metal Gear Solid 6? Well,
or why doesn't Sony remake Bloodborne?
They don't really know how. Like, let's be honest. How would they? Where would they go? That's why they made Metal Gear Survive after 5, because where would they have taken it? They don't know. Kojima might have an idea, but he's not there.
No. I think the biggest thing is that, you know, if you were to ask somewhat a abstract consideration, but where is the thing? Where is the main thing? Is it on the disc that I have here? Is it on the computer of the people at the office there? Like, is it in the visual assets? Where actually is it? And I think the visual assets that we were just discussing, they relate to the idea of the game kind of as like the body to the mind, you know, the physical to the form. But the idea itself is in one place. It's in the mind of the guy who made it, and everything else is just an expressive tool. You know, the same way my words are conveying meaning to you from inside my head to outside of my mouth, right? Without me behind the words, they wouldn't be working. They wouldn't be the same thing. And I think that's true as much of, you know, organic things in the world and language as it is of video games. What the game is its concept in the mind of the person responsible for it, you know? And there's so many examples of the problems that arise when you cut out the person involved in conceptualizing the thing. Like, think about, like, you know, Star Wars without George Lucas.
Oh God!
It's just whatever you thought of Star Wars before, buddy. I tell you, it's certainly not the same thing. It's just pure slop. There's Halo without Bungie, right? Yeah. What's going on with that?
Oh, no, There's
Halo without the people involved in making it. It's just become like some carnival trash, essentially, right?
Yeah.
There's Persona that I just talked about, Persona 3 Reload without Hashino. There's the Silent Hill 2 remake, which had nothing to do with the people involved, and it just became nonsense, like puzzle solving and
they stretched it and bloated it. Oh,
yeah, God. Just junk, man. The Demon's Souls remake, at least, you know, they did their best to remain quote unquote faithful to the original idea.
It plays the same. This is going to be the exact same thing with Metal Gear Solid Delta, essentially. It's probably going to play the same.
I think, though, you can attribute like all of those artistic problems I just discussed to the fact that the original guy's idea wasn't regulating the thing from beginning to end, right? Like, there's a connection between those two things. So I don't know, aside from the art being different and that kind of changing the identity of the thing, like I think that identity precisely consists in the idea in the mind of the guy who conceived it, expressing it through the original art. You need both of those components to have the original thing. And there's some disingenuity in being like, yeah, we're remaking this thing.
We're gonna redo it.
We're redoing it.
Without him and without Shinkawa, the main artist that you see on the cover, all those nice drawings of
character designer. Yeah, it's just nonsense. Star Wars without Lucas is the most powerful example to my estimation. You know.
Yeah, if that doesn't ring bells in your head, like, man.
I think effectively, like what this does when you take the work away from the person who conceived it and the matter in which it was originally expressed, what you have left is nothing. You just have a bunch of external, superficial, visible characteristics. Yeah. Maybe you can brand them as a franchise for whatever that's worth. But what does that consist in, bro? Where is it? What is it? It's literally just a bunch of visual tropes, like a bunch of images and colors and
Jedi's, like, you know.
That's nothing, right? It's nothing without the idea which invested those things with meaning.
We might be seeing this happen even with like Gears of War E-Day, actually, because now they're saying they're going to go back and
they're going to make another one?
A prequel. Yeah, they're doing the prequel.
I don't know, man. That company is most definitely the worst for all of this stuff.
Microsoft's pretty bad.
For just churning their
organic,
practically living works of art into just soulless husks.
They're like gaming Disney. Like they just keep re-releasing stuff, right?
It's just
whether with a new coat of paint or not or whatever. It's
horrendous.
Going,
I think that this like reduction of things that people make to franchises, you know, that can just be like continually re-inhabited by different people. They have no real identity of any kind, not conceptual, not visual. I think this is just pure consumerism at its worst, right? And to me, that's probably even more unsavory about all of these things. That's the part I really don't like about Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta. Like, what is this? You know, what is Metal Gear without Kojima, actually?
That's
even if you don't like Kojima, you have to realize like his way of looking at things is integral in building all of these games.
The game wouldn't exist in its capacity without him. Like
it just wouldn't be the same thing.
It wouldn't be anything. Yeah, like it is essentially his brainchild, and he's gone on. And I just said, I finished Death Stranding and played his most recent game. Like he's clearly moved on to bigger and better things, way outside of, obviously he doesn't own the rights to Metal Gear Solid, so he doesn't have a choice. But even as far back as like the first one, he didn't want to go back and make a sequel. But that's a Konami thing, right? They want to keep it going, right? And churning the freaking content and whatever. And that's how we arrived here, where they had their falling out, but they still own the IP. So Metal Gear Solid Delta is a thing.
Yeah. I was gonna say for better or worse, but I just think for worse, honestly.
Yeah.
I just don't like this kind of thing. Like, make a new game inspired by Metal Gear then. The same way that people make Souls-likes inspired by Dark Souls, but you have to make literally a remake of the thing. Yeah. This seems to me just like prostitutional, You're taking like the semblance of a thing and just stuffing it with your profit motive, and that's all that remains, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be somewhat of a hit because
it's going to be a massive hit.
Audience.
Oh, it's going to sell, and probably everybody's going to like it except for us, I bet you.
Probably.
And a few like weirdos on the internet saying something like this, right?
Yeah. Like, we'll be accused of clickbait this or that or whatever, but hey, we have stuff to back it up.
We're pretty consistent with this, with every remake or remaster we talk about.
That's
right?
True. Yeah.
I think like that's actually why remasters, to me, like if that just means porting a game to new hardware and upping the resolution, like I don't find that unpalatable at all.
No, I think that's
I don't even mind paying for those, bro. People are like, oh, I'm gonna pay for this old game again. Yeah, I mean, why not?
Whatever. Plays on new hardware, sure. I happily bought the Master Collection for Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, and they play great on the PS5.
To me, that's more analogous to like, suppose there was a book and the water dripped on the pages and it was hard to read, and they just printed a new copy of it, right?
One,
like it's not you're not changing the concept as it existed in the mind of its artist, nor are you changing the words with which it was expressed, right? You're just making it so that the physical artifact, the technology used to access it, is easier for the reader to access.
That's fair.
There's nothing wrong with that, to my estimation. It doesn't bear at all on the work itself, whereas this is tampering with that precisely, and I guess at the end of the day, if it was like the kind of thing where it could just enter the world and not change anything in the wider culture surrounding it, it wouldn't be quite as bad. But the fact is, like you just said, everybody's going to like it and start suggesting it as the definitive version,
way to play it, the non-Kojima version. Like, give me a break. What?
Yeah.
And he puts his stamp on his games. You can tell he's so proud of everything he makes. Literally, like, every game that he is involved in, like, says right on the box, says right when you boot it up, a Hideo Kojima game. You know, this is not gonna have that. Like, how do you play a Metal Gear Solid game without that?
I don't know, man. I think this, like we've talked about so many times, the strength of his games and of other games like his games is the fact that there's a discernible personality whose idea governs the whole work. Even if there's 1,000 people involved in making it, they're executing something born in the mind of a single person, and this lends a cohesiveness to the work. Yeah. Right? An organic wholeness, you know? There was this, like, same idea, like, decades ago in people analyzing cinema. There was this idea of auteur theory we talked about before, right? Yeah. From this guy, Andrew Saris, who talks about the fact that the best directors, they have a unmistakable identity to the things they make in virtue of they are the ones who make them, you know? Like, their idea is governing the work. Even if they make different things, the meaning in those, it's the fact that it has any kind of identity at all, and it's not just a jumble of parts. It results from the fact that it's their idea penetrating these different parts and all of the people involved and coordinating them, essentially. So,
like, the way I like to think of it is that, you know, everything goes to that one person. If there's any questions or ideas or whatever, everything gets bounced off of them, and they have the final say. I remember reading a lot of the development of God of War, where Cory Barlog was the director, and he said a lot of ideas came from other people and they would bounce it off him, but he would bounce it off other people, and it's like, no, you're supposed to be the guy who's like, no, this is it, right?
That's another great example, you know, of a franchise that, to my estimation, totally lost everything that made it what it was. I hated God of War 2018. I still do so much. That game is just steaming garbage.
Agreed.
Represents everything wrong with everything.
I couldn't even force my way through it if I wanted to. I just
it was garbage. Garbage. And even between that one and the one that came after, and that guy just totally gave up.
The next one they handed off to another guy to direct. It's like, who's making the decisions?
I don't know.
I don't like it.
Say what you will about Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann, who I don't like at all either, but at least the guy is involved in his own stuff, right? At least he takes credit for it, and he's like, this is mine, you know? Something to be said for that. Maybe that's what makes it bad. I mean, maybe, at the same time, though, I think it's like a precondition for anything really being good, you know? For it having an identity, an organic wholeness, right? So to me, that's the problems, I guess, with Metal Gear Solid Delta. On the one hand, you know, the idea in the mind of the guy who conceived it is not regulating the work. It's not present at all. It's just going to be something different in a conceptual sense.
Yeah, like, who's even directing this game?
I don't know. Probably nobody. Director. It's old-fashioned, you know? And on the other hand, there's nothing material that resembles it either. It's like it's both metaphorically, it's a new soul in a new body, you know? And that's just, like, I have no appetite for that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right?
I would be very hard-pressed to argue against, obviously, because I agree with everything you said, but also I have no desire to play Delta. And it's something that years ago, if you asked me, I would have been like, heck yeah, I'm in on this day one. But, like, you know, over the years, things have changed, and we've sort of looked at things and kind of changed our minds a little bit for the reasons we just said, right?
I think if you were to object to all this, you would proceed in this manner. You'd say either there's no such thing as organic wholeness to anything in the world. There's no such thing as coherent identity, not in organisms nor in art. People do argue this, and that's probably why they arrive at different conclusions. Or you'd say you don't care. You're just in it for the shallow thrill of it, right?
I think that would
and that probably characterizes most people. Just let people have fun, man.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's not coherent, you know.
I mean, we're not here for that. We're here to, you know, analyze and get into the nitty gritty of all this stuff, right? I think that's what we do.
That's what makes games worth anything, right? The way that you derive meaning from them, and if they're not actually a thing, they have no meaning to derive.
Fair enough.
That's a consequence of them not having organic wholeness, right? But in any case, maybe we could leave it there.
I think we got the point across.
Play your other games, but I don't think you should play Delta. You could play Metal Gear 3, man. Metal Gear Solid 3 in the Master Collection or on an emulator, either way. And it'll be excellent. You'll enjoy
everything.
It'll
now,
look
basically.
beautiful, right?
Man, I would play 4 if they released it. If they released a Volume 2 Master Collection and it just had 4, I'd buy it and play it. Hands down.
I really hope, like, the same way that pixel graphics are now popular to design in for indie studios and others, even Square Enix, for example. I hope that people come to appreciate, like, different styles and technologies characterizing the eras of video game design as possessed of their own merit. The same way somebody would willfully design, like, a pixelated game right now, like a 2D pixel game like Octopath or something. Like, people should work within, like, the PS2 era technologies as well. It has its own visual charm, you know? It's not just a stepping stone to get from there to here. It's its own thing and with its own merits. And that's what I really think is going to be lost because of all of this, you know? Because the ascendancy of games like this, it's truly depressing. But
yeah, it'll look pretty, but that's probably where the elevator stops, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's that worth? You know?
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much for tuning in, and take care.